Hi, I'm Ed. Welcome to Common Sense.
And I'm John. How you doing, Ed?
I'm good, John. Yourself?
I'm good. I haven't been traveling as much as you have, but I'm sure you managed to get through in one piece.
Well, there's nothing like being face to face with people, but
Yeah.
it seems like there's not enough hours in the day to keep up with email and everything else. And travel certainly, that's the big challenge we have these days. How do you manage both?
Yeah. We have all these great tools for communicating, but it's still better to get on a plane and go somewhere and meet people and talk to them, and
Absolutely, I believe so.
that'll never go away. Well, we've been talking a lot about, the buyer perspectives, the buyer journey, the customer continuum, things along those lines, and in our book, Common Sense Revenue Growth. But one of the things, we tend to go to the topic of marketing a little more than the sales and customer service side of that continuum. So, that's good, but I think we both agree it's time to talk about some other topics. And so last time we talked about PR, which is really at the early stages of marketing.
Right.
Let's change things up a bit this week and talk about the power of building and maintaining a knowledge base.
Okay.
First of all, not everybody knows what a knowledge base is. So basically, in business, a knowledge base is a self-serve online library of information about a product, a service, a department, or a topic. So it's relevant to your business. And it's usually designed for sales and customer service. They're the primary beneficiaries of a knowledge base, as are customers that are asking questions. But it's not so clear why you would need a knowledge base for marketing. So why don't you kick us off and give us some insights?
All right, so we come back to marketing anyway, even though we're talking about customer service. Well, let's start with a little bit of context. I mean, when we talk about inbound or content or digital marketing, we're often talking about creating content that answers the questions people are asking. Marcus Sheridan has done a great job simplifying that concept and making it accessible for a lot of people. So, that's a great way you can design your editorial calendar. But not just prospects, customers are asking questions too. And often they're more product or function specific. And that ties in with one of the other things that we consistently harp on, and that's the customer experience. So from the perspective of customer experience, you could make people go through menus, they could open a manual, they could call customer service, they could send an email. We've all been through that excruciating, unfortunately, it's almost always excruciating exercise. A couple attempts to get the right person, communication that, is never quite exactly right. The sender and the receiver aren't quite synced up. So it's not a great customer experience. And the question is, how could you make it better? And a knowledge base is an attempt to answer the commonly asked questions, not FAQs, but broader than that, the commonly asked customer questions. It could be very specific, how your product or app, how you do something specific with the product or app, or it could be more general that's related to a situation. So for example, if we're talking about marketing automation, one person might ask how to change a trigger in a HubSpot workflow. That's obviously a very specific kind of a question they might be asking. On the other hand, somebody might ask what benchmarks they could use to compare open and click rates on automated emails that follow a form submission.
Yeah.
And that could apply to a variety of users and platforms. That's not a HubSpot specific question. A Marketo user, an Eloqua user, or a Constant Contact user could be asking that kind of question. So you want to answer both in that knowledge base, but answering them is only part of what you need to do well. You also got to make sure that customers can find them easily and that their interaction is satisfactory. So, with that background, being the MarTech expert that you are, what tools are you seeing in the space that let people do this well?
Well, it's interesting that there are cloud-based tools at all, considering that the history of knowledge bases was really literally a library of printed materials that either the sales team or the customer service team had access to, and they'd either mail it to you or hand it to you in a meeting or something like that. So it was very proprietary, very tightly guarded, and really only shared manually.
Right.
But now we see these knowledge bases everywhere on websites and social communities. So that means a couple of things. First of all, you need the tools to build that kind of online library. So a CMS is essential to publish, edit, add video, visuals, podcasts, whatever medium you're going to use, as well as linking off to the website, making it very, very easy for users to find what they're looking for. Search engine friendly, so everything needs to be indexed by search engines and by the knowledge platform itself, whatever that may be. So it really needs to blend in nicely with your brand, your website, and it needs to be extremely easy to use, which is part of that customer experience. So, that's important, getting it set up right, organized well, easy to navigate through. And there's a few tools. I mentioned one, HubSpot is a great platform for kind of doing everything on on a website, or creating a platform basically for finding the information. And their new Service Hub is designed specifically for this application, for building knowledge bases. And also Drift has some interesting integrations that allow you to integrate with common knowledge base publishing platforms like HelpJuice, Help Scout, and WordPress. But there's a lot of people searching that might not even know about you. How can you help with that problem?
Yeah, so I think that's an interesting point. I mean, people that sit down to ask Google a question, not go to your site and try to figure out how to find the answer in the knowledge base there. And so that's a challenge, but it's also a huge opportunity. And then it kind of brings us back into that marketing angle again. Because when you publish that knowledge base, understanding it's going to be indexed by Google, if you can optimize the URLs, optimize the titles, optimize the content around the key terms and content pillars that are going to help your content get indexed, so that people searching for issues related to what you do are going to find it, much less searching for that specific question. Obviously, you put yourself in a very strong position. That means optimizing these elements, even though it's something that you would normally think of in the context of marketing, where this is a knowledge base. And it also means being thoughtful about where that knowledge base lives. Should it be part of your main domain, or in a directory, in a subdomain? And you want to make sure that you accrue domain authority with all this great content that you're going to create that really is going to be very rich with context for those content pillars that you're working on. And that leads to lead gen, honestly. And there's two pieces to keep in mind. First, content creation for many manufacturers, it's tough. They run out of ideas and they start to create this repetitive, redundant, boring sort of material. And that is counterproductive. They want to talk about their product or service, but they need to do it in a way that is appropriate not only for subscribers, but also for Google and for new searches. And so the beauty of a knowledge base is it lets them create content that's easy for them to write. It lets them speak about their product or service that they love talking about. And second, creating this in a way related to your content pillars is going to improve the performance of just the marketing content that sits out there as well, if you're building that integrated domain authority. So it'll help you get found for general questions like that issue around click rates on marketing automation emails from above, and will help you uncover new leads for, in that case, would be people considering marketing automation and comparing various vendors. But whatever your product or service is, as a byproduct of that better customer experience, you also often end up with reduced demand for telephone and email customer support. I mean, that was the original intention of some of these tools, was to just try to offload from call centers. But now as the technology improves, the service may actually be better. And finally, I mean, imagine if you could run automation workflows on knowledge-based interactions. The segmentation of customer value that you could drive would be enormous. And there's probably even opportunities to sell training and improve success rates just by the observations and insights you can get from interaction with existing customers with the knowledge base. But there's a whole other world of crowdsourced knowledge to consider too. So why don't you take us in that area?
Well, you're right about that. And, everybody knows about Wikipedia, and Quora is another great social forum where people exchange ideas and information. And they're obviously a lot more popular than most companies' websites. So there could be a great platform if you can, engage with that without being too spammy, basically. So there's some pros and cons to going down that road. First, like I said, you're going to lose your reach and domain authority if you go off your website and onto a public website like Wikipedia. And you also don't have any way of measuring user interactions, engagement with your content. So there's that too. But on the other hand, you have that great exposure to, huge amounts of traffic. People use those tools to find solutions too, just like they use Google. So, it's a little more personal than Google. And, so it's obviously a good place to be if you're lacking exposure, as you were talking about. So really the best answer is probably to do a bit of both. And you have to do the social forums a different way. So, it's not about really necessarily publishing information from your knowledge base right away. What you really want to do is engage with other users on those platforms, answering questions, being helpful, and just generally becoming a known expert on a certain topic. It could be a product, it could be a way of doing things, a lot of different things are possible. But you want to be yourself, you want to be open, and you don't want to be promoting things, at least not at the beginning. You might at some point, if there's a good conversation going on, point them to a blog you wrote that does answer that specific question, and now they're on your website. So, that's another way of getting leads. So that's the general way of attacking these things. I think Wikipedia is a little different. So you really do have to publish some authoritative articles on Wikipedia to get listed or to get linked. And that's not necessarily an easy thing to do because it's really not designed for product promotion. And there's actually a pretty complicated process that you have to do. So I would suggest just Googling how to submit articles to Wikipedia, and they'll help you figure out how to do that. But it may take some time and it may take some effort, so just be prepared for that. So do you agree on the general approach there?
I think you're absolutely right. That balanced approach where you have a knowledge base that has very tactical but also strategic purposes on your own domain, but these other platforms is perfect. I mean, I've got an example. I got a contract to deliver a keynote speech one time as a result of a comment that I left on an industry blog. I mean, the person followed the threads and found me that way. So in many ways, this knowledge-based opportunity is big. It's a combination of owned and earned media. Like all content, the bottom line, there's got to be value for the customer or buyer or reader or whoever the consumer of the information is first. If you create value for them and you accrue value for your business at the same time, then it's going to work well. And the kinds of companies we most often speak of, I think that it's a fit for them because they can create so much original owned content that is natural for them, but doesn't go onto a blog and just turn off blog subscribers because it's so repetitive. The risk is, that service folks get excited and start creating it without coordinating with the marketing teams. And, on the one hand, it's good that you build a great customer experience with a strong knowledge base. On the other hand, it's a shame to waste the opportunity that marketing could facilitate with optimizing around content pillars and that sort of thing. And I'm inclined to think that for many industrial manufacturers, that content creation hurdle is such an impediment for content marketing that maybe this is the place for them to start, an early place to create content, just because it's so much natural, it's so much more natural, and it's so much easier for them. Do you think, would you ever endorse an industrial company starting their content marketing with a knowledge base and not with a blog?
Well, I'm not sure that you have to do one and not the other. I guess it depends on resources, but I think, the way to go early in marketing is through video, and other types of easy to consume content, for mobile phones and places where busy executives might go for that sort of thing. So I think as long as you keep it aligned with your overall marketing strategy, but helpful, authoritative content in video form, that could be a really great way to get your marketing rolling. So,
and actually, going back to the HubSpot example, their Service Hub and their new integration with Vidyard makes it possible to embed, just create video content like right from your screen as we're talking, and embed it into a knowledge base article. So they make it really easy to use that video tool as part of it too.
Yeah, and I think your point is a good one. I think most engineers and people who might be interested in manufacturing products are more likely to read something that's technical or something that's in depth about a certain type of product or process. So I think it makes a lot of sense to blend in that knowledge base into your early content. So
cool.
I do think that's a good topic for a lot of manufacturing companies. Good suggestions there. So let's wrap that up today. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us and remind you that we have our book, Common Sense Revenue Growth, available on Amazon, or you can go to www.commonsenserevenuegrowth.com. Thanks for joining us today. I'm John.
I'm Ed, and together we're Common Sense. Thank you.